Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the seminar series of Graduate School of Yaşar University. And today we are having a guest of Ahmed Imran Hunjra. Sorry for that. Dr. Ahmed Imran Hunjra has over a decade of teaching experience in finance and quantitative methods across a large number of universities internationally. His current area of research interest is in the domain of corporate finance, with a strong passion for topics related to integrity and reputation of corporations, transparency, accountability, responsibility, fairness, and sustainability. He is a prolific author and has published in a broad range of highly cited international research journals, including International Review of Financial Analysis, Financial Research Letters, Technological Forecasting and Social Change, Energy Economics, Journal of Environmental Management, Economic Modeling, International Journal of Finance and Economics, Research in International Business and Finance, Quarterly Review of Economic and Finance. Moreover, he is a senior area editor of International Journal of Emerging Markets and sits on the board of several ABC and ABDC index journals. Recently, he won the Outstanding Review Award 2021 by Emerald Literary, the Distinguished Review Award 2021 by Futures Interpress, and the Best University Teacher Award 2020 from PMAS Agriculture University, Rawalpindi, Pakistan. And lastly, he has supervised 6 PhDs and over 50 master scholars to successful completion. So the stage is yours, Dr. Hunjra.
Thank you very much for this amazing introduction. So let me share my slide, then we'll be having about 1 hour lecture. Okay. Can you see my slides?
I think it's starting to be uploaded. Yes, we can see it now.
Okay. Let me start. Okay, hopefully slides are moving. Okay, as we have decided the topic of this webinar, it's corporate social responsibility, stakeholders management, and capital budgeting and firm performance, and its survey evidence. So in this case, we are having a mediator, which is capital budgeting. I will explain later. As we know, corporate social responsibility and management of stakeholder interest are gaining important attention of corporate managers. So it's important, and core concerns is what matters and who matters to the corporate managers. So as we know, CSR is desired to see all corporate activities directed towards defined social aims and interest of the community. So CSR is essentially outwards looking, acting in the interest of society and accordance with the will of society. So in this case, the concern, the claim should be taken into consideration even the remote consequences of actions regular conduct according to these point of views, what matters and who matters. So stakeholder management is essentially in world looking and as such has a much narrow scope. Stakeholder management processes with corporate managers. It gives due consideration to stakeholders of the entity or firm. It is defined as a member of groups without whose support the organization would cease to exist. So this was given by Finansman and Trade. It typically stands to those groups that are part of the value of chain of entity. These stakeholders can be shareholders, employees, customers, suppliers, lenders, and community as well. So there are two motives of CSR. One is instrumental motive, second one is benevolent motives, and in corporate social responsibility and in social census, there is ongoing dispute over different motives of investment in CSR activities. If you take them at the cost, you take the services towards the society. One view upholds the instrumental motives premised on the profit maximization, which is the economic rationalism of the firm. They have to focus on the profit maximization. From the instrumental perspective, the business is viewed primarily as a mean of profit maximization, where CSR and stakeholder management activities primarily intended to achieve economic results by the corporate managers. The other school of thought or motive is of CSR is about motive, and it's more related to the contribution towards society, and human beings should not sacrifice themselves or one another for merely relative value stands. Freeman proposed stakeholder theory and arguing that the managerial importance of establishing the good relationship with a wide group of stakeholders. And Alkindon put also forth the triple bottom theory, which is arguing that the business should not just look out for their bottom line, which is the value maximization, profit maximization, but the business or firms also look at the benevolent school of thought or motive. So where we conduct this research, CSR activities may enhance the firm's financial performance and stakeholder interest, and so broaden the management by letting it think beyond profit maximization, not only focusing on the instrumental motive, but also focus on the benevolent motive. The capital budgeting choice of a firm is of most essential decision criteria while making the long-term investment or decision of budgeting. Then the corporate managers or financial executives must have to consider CSR and stakeholder concerns while making the investment decision. The stakeholder interest affects the capital budgeting decision of the firm. This is claimed by different scholars in the field. So measuring the financial impacts from the investment in CSR and stakeholder interest are essentially complex into the year, and the methodology approaches undertaken in this study, we focus on the perception-based, acting as a lens through which finance managers views and what they think about these perspective, and what's their approaches and how they practice these components. Either they follow the instrumental motive or benevolent motives, and how they take care about these stakeholder interest while making their capital budgeting decision, long-term decisions, and how their how these decisions affect the firm performance. It is premised on the notation that corporate managers' perception and beliefs are the primary drivers of their actions. So we implied to check the calculate the results or analysis. We applied the structural equation modeling and between measured variables and latent variables to check the validity and hypothesis testing. So the objective of this research is we simply check the impact of CSR and stakeholder interest on the financial performance. Then we also have to explore whether the instrumental motive is supported or benevolent motive is supported, and we further check the mediating role of capital budgeting between a CSR, the stakeholders' interest, and financial performance of the. So here is the argument development behind the various hypotheses. We have almost 7 hypotheses in this research. The first hypothesis, CSR and financial performance. Stakeholders expect the corporations to behave ethically with investors more interested in the corporations, and CSR implementation contributes to stronger consumer demand, which provides firms with competitive advantage. And if CSR activities further reduces the information asymmetry and consequently decreases the investment through enhancing access to the external source of financing. The second hypothesis, management of stakeholder interest and financial performance. Stakeholder satisfaction is a multidimensional phenomena, and with degree to which a firm fulfills the management of diverse stakeholders' interest. Then access to the stakeholder resources firm require a synergic governance structure that consider the multiple stakeholder and bring their interest aligned, of different stakeholders aligned and claim and values. So it involves balancing the conflicting interest of the various stakeholder groups and considering their synergistic impacts on the firm performance. Then CSR and capital budgeting, how CSR is related with the capital budgeting. So approaching capital budgeting from an instrumental perspective gives the preference to economic consideration, value maximization of the shareholder. So it enhances the shareholder wealth. In contrast, for the benevolent approach, CSR is dominated by the social perspective, and environmental perspective contributes to the society. Arguably, CSR may influence capital investment decisions, even when upper level managers prefer to maximize from the profit. So a dedicated CSR policy reflects forward and long-term thinking and is associated with the reputational advantage, leading to the competitive advantage. So that is given by Porter and Landay. So we have another hypothesis for management of stakeholder interest and capital budgeting. So this is the fourth hypothesis. Stakeholder provide the means of businesses to operate not only by the giving them the financial support, other resources, but also in a more holistic sense by giving the business the lessons to operate via social contracts. And corporate managers consider the stakeholders' interest in making capital budgeting decisions, as this is a good business ethics and essential for the profitability and long-term survival of the firm to meet the competition in the market. So understanding what might motivate stakeholders and how investment decisions are related or interpreted by the stakeholders is very important while making their the selection of capital investment, long-term investment. Then capital budgeting and firm performance, the impact of capital budgeting and firm performance is one of the central questions in corporate financial management, and particularly in the evaluation of investment policies. This process requires a careful consideration of several factors such as CSR activities, stakeholder interest, while making the investment decision. So for the instrumental perspective, optimal capital budgeting decision help firms to remain competitive as it aims to maximize the shareholder wealth. Then we have the mediating hypothesis, how the mediator capital budgeting plays a mediating role between CSR and firm performance. We have two hypotheses. Then CSR and a moral holistic approach of stakeholder management have increasingly become imperatives rather than the option in corporate strategies. First, corporate managers' perspective on the CSR and management of shareholder interest influence capital budgeting. Then second, the mediating role of capital budgeting on the relationship between CSR, stakeholder interest, and firm performance is crucial to the consideration of corporate managers. The mediating role of capital budgeting arises when corporate managers look beyond the traditional aim of the shareholder value maximization means emphasizing more on the benevolent approach. So this is the picture overall summary of literature review, and there is a positive relationship between CSR and capital budgeting. Then CSR and firm performance, stakeholder interest, and capital budgeting, stakeholder interest, and firm performance. We found the literature, and based on the literature, we find the direction of relationship between these variables, and we develop the arguments based on the underpinnings and literature. It's the conceptual framework which is based on the different perspectives. So in this perspective, CSR and stakeholder interest are the independent variable. Capital budgeting performs the mediating role, and financial performance, it's related to the outcome variable. So in this case, we have 7 hypotheses as I have explained in my previous slides. So it's the methodology. The population of this study was CFOs of Pakistani corporate sector, and we targeted both sectors, service and manufacturing industries, and the total population, the listed firms were 321 at Karachi, Pakistan Stock Exchange, and but we able to collect the data, collect the data of 200 plus firms, but after screening, we finalized 193 questions for questionnaires for analysis. We apply confirmatory factor analysis to check the validity of instrument, and we applied palette testing on 113 responses, and model testing for hypothesis testing. We utilized 193 questions there. So we choose, we applied confirmatory factor analysis, reliability analysis, structural equation modeling for hypothesis testing, and we select the, we adapted the instrument from different articles. Financial performance, we initially, we took 9 questions and 9 items or statements, but after CFA, and 4 were valid in our scenario, and the 5 questions were not valid in our scenario, Crown Badge Alpha. Then we have onset, we have this is not uncertainty, this is stakeholder financial performance, there is capital budgeting. This, we took the data, we took the instrument from Weber and Scholz. Then we have CSR and stakeholder interest, different questions are there, and we have applied the Crown Badge Alpha to check the reliability. This Crown Badge Alpha reliability is done on 193 responses, 193 questionnaire. So the value of Crown Badge Alpha is suggesting that there is internal consistency between the questions. So this is the result of confirmatory factor analysis. In confirmatory factor analysis, as we know, we check the convergent validity and discriminant validity, and under the head of convergent validity, we have the factor loading, and factor loading, and we use the cutoff point, which is suggested by different scholars in the literature, 0.50, and the items or questions having more than 0.50 load, which is considered valid, and the rest are considered invalid. So in this case, we have valid and invalid questions. Further, we have calculated the average variance extraction by utilizing this formula, and we calculate the average variance extraction if the AVE value is greater than 0.50 and CR is greater than 0.60 or 0.70, then we can say there is convergent validity existing in the instrument. So we have also have the covariance diagram. This covariance diagram is used to check the multicollinearity and discriminant validity between the variables. So these are the covariance weights between different variables. Between these variables, we have different weights, and these weights, these are the covariance values which are used, which will be used to calculate the discriminant validity and correlation coefficients. So this is discriminant validity, and here we have the cutoff point if the value of AV is greater than the value of SIC, that is square of interconstruct correlation. This is interconstruct, and we can use the square root of interconstruct. Then we compare if AB is greater than the SIC, then we can say that there is discriminant validity between the instrument, between the variables. So next we have the reliability analysis. We have applied the reliability analysis. I have already shown in previous slide, and here there is the financial performance. Here is capital budgeting. Then we have CSR and stakeholder interest. Number of individual items, initial items, number of individual questions. Initial questions, here we have the valid items after CFA, and we have checked the Cronbach alpha reliability of valid questions after CFA pilot testing. Then we have applied different tests of 193 questionnaire, and we applied the descriptive statistics and correlation coefficient. The descriptive statistics values are nearer to 4, and which are approaching that the chief financial officers are agreed towards the set questions to ask questions, and we have different questions of each variable. Then we have computed them and checked the descriptive statistics and correlation metrics. And correlation coefficients also suggesting that there is no serious problem of multicollinearity, and the values are not more than 0.5 and 0.7, and there is no serious correlation problem. Then we have applied the structural equation modeling, and we have model fit indexes. As you know, there are two models. One is direct model, second one is indirect model, because we have two objectives. In first objective, we determine the impact of CSR and stakeholder interest on the financial performance. And in the second model, that is indirect, where capital budgeting will be mediating between CSR, stakeholder interest, and firm performance. So these are the model fit indexes, chi-square value, and Remise. These values are suggesting that there is a good fit in model. So the NFI value, CFI means norm fit index, goodness fit index, adjusted goodness fit index, and there are also comparative fit indexes are there, norm fit indexes are there. So based on the indexes values, we can claim that there is a best fit model. Our models are best fit, and the Cronbach alpha values was also suggesting there is a reliability between the instruments, internal consistency. And because why our models are good fit, because we have excluded the items which were not valid in our scenario. So these are the results of first model, direct effect. Direct effect means the impact of CSR and stakeholder interest. We have two hypotheses in this case, and these two hypotheses are hypothesis one, CSR impacts the financial performance. The other one is that stakeholder interest is related with the financial performance. Based on these models, we can check here are the standard estimates, and p-value is suggesting that H1 and H2 are supported, and we can check also check the collinearity model, collinearity through variance inflated factor and tolerance, and values are suggesting there is no serious problem of multi-collinearity. The second one is indirect model. Indirect model, here the mediator is capital budgeting, and we can see that the impact of CSR on capital budgeting, impact of stakeholder interest and capital budgeting is 0.23. Then capital budgeting impact on financial performance, the coefficient is 0.69, and the p-values are suggesting they are related positively impacting the value of financial performance, and the TOL and BF values are confirming there is no issue of multi-collinearity. So this is the mediating, is there mediating role of capital budgeting? We can compare, make a comparison between direct coefficient and indirect coefficient. So direct coefficient estimates our CSR impact on financial performance without mediator, then the coefficient of stakeholder interest on financial performance. Then once we have incorporated the capital budgeting in the model, we obtained the coefficient is dramatically decreased and it's insignificant. If it's insignificant and decreased, we can say there is a full mediation. And look, the direct model coefficient is 0.25 and the indirect model is proving that the coefficient is it's decreased and insignificant. So we can claim that the capital budgeting mediates the in between, mediates the relationship, mediates the association between CSR and financial performance. And in this case, hypothesis 6, capital budgeting mediates the relation between financial performance and stakeholder interest. So these are the major findings of our research. There is a positive relationship between CSR and financial performance, and these findings are supported by the previous studies. And same hypotheses are claimed, hypotheses are proved. And here are the discussion on our results. The results reveal that the direct association of CSR and management of stakeholders interest on the firm performance is significantly and positive, and which proves our first and second hypothesis. However, with capital budgeting as a mediator, we find evidence from the proposition that CSR and management of stakeholder interest directly influence the firm performance. Thus, the association of both CSR and management of shareholder interest with the firm performance is fully mediated by the capital budgeting. The findings imply that capital investment undertaken by the corporate managers aim to enhance the firm performance and offer few trade-off of benevolent and CSR accomplishment. Finally, a positive and direct association between capital budgeting and firm performance is found, which provides the supplementary evidences of the instrumental nature of capital budgeting decision. So the finding emphasized the importance of management of stakeholder interest as a business practice that is mediated by the capital budgeting. So finding also extends the Corwell 1961 CSR conceptualization that firms should aim to be profitable, adhere to the law, act morally, and contributes to the community. These findings are aligned with the Friedman's doctrine, his philosophy, Friedman's philosophy as a theory of business ethics that a firm's greatest responsibility lies in the satisfaction of shareholders. Therefore, the firm should always consider to maximize its revenues to increase returns for the shareholders. So this is the conclusion of this paper. Our paper, the conceptual debate we test in this paper is whether the instrumental rationality or benevolence serves as a basis for the ethical business behavior. The investigation involved around the association between capital budgeting. We test the capital budgeting as a mediator, CSR, mediator between CSR, stakeholder interest, and firm performance, whether there is instrumental or benevolence logic prevails in corporate decision making. The findings are consistent with the claim of both management of stakeholder interest and CSR influence on the firm. We find complete and fully mediation of capital budgeting between stakeholder interest and firm performance and CSR activities. So we also conclude that capital budgeting in Pakistan corporate firm is driven by the instrumental logic and also the motives of Pakistan corporate finance manager more inclined to support shareholder interest. So it's recommended that the companies shall take initiative in CSR activities and stakeholder interest while making their capital budgeting decision. We argue that the further research, future research may be done by the comparison between the perception-based data and the hard data to just make the comparison between either their perception and the variables which are utilized are going in hand, or there is a difference or gap between the CFO perception and what actually prevails. So what is the contribution of our research? First, we show that capital budgeting plays a significant mediating role, which was not being explored as per best of our knowledge in the literature. And the other one is we challenge the view of ethical scholars who are inclined to unduly focus on the benevolent and moral aspects of the CSR construct. Then the other one is our finding emphasize on the importance of managing the stakeholder interest as a business practice that is mediated by the capital budgeting. So thank you very much. This was all about from my presentation.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. Actually, it was a very interesting presentation. So let me ask if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, in fact, I have a question.
Please. Yes, Mehmet Hoca, please go ahead.
So, Dr. Hunjra, thank you very much for this very timely and interesting research. So it was very nice to listen to your seminar. So, corporate social responsibility is an area that I do not directly make research. So I learned a lot of things from your presentation, and I think many of the participants get aware of the latest developments in this field. So I just wonder, in one of your literature review slides, you were summarizing the results of the relevant literature, and there was, you documented a positive relationship between corporate social responsibility and firm performance, and you also find supporting results with the literature. I just wonder, yes, for this slide, exactly, thank you. So I just wonder, and when we look at this slide, we all see positive relation. And that is good for your findings, but you know, in finance literature, there is always some conflict, there is always some debate. So there are mainly at least 2 or 3 or maybe some more lines of research. I just wonder whether this is a selective literature, or there is no studies that report a negative relation or no relation at all. Why I am asking this question can be explained as follows. So the companies that are more sensitive to corporate social responsibility may incur additional costs. And in societies or in some markets where these additional costs are not valued positively by the investors, may just stay as costs, that there may be no return on this additional cost, and that may trigger a negative relation. I just wonder whether, and this issue may be more pronounced in markets or in countries where the investors are mainly short-sighted, where they make short-term investments rather than waiting for longer periods to collect the fruits of their investments. In those countries, in those market segments, there may be a negative relation, but as I already mentioned, I'm not a researcher directly from this field, but that just brings this question to my mind, and I just wonder what you think about this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mehmet. It was very interesting question. Thank you for this important question. Yes, the first question answer of your first part is this is selective literature. We have the direction on both sides, positive and negative, both sides literature is available, but most of the literature is towards the positive side. And why we took the positive side, because yes, it's and for perspective of investment, our capital budgeting is of mediating variable, and we are taking it a long-term investment. And long-term investment, yes, it's cost in short term, but in long term, it contributes in the value of firm then it positively affects the value of firm in long term. And why we took it as a positive, because we are going with the long-term investment. That is the one of the major financial decisions, capital budgeting decision. And yes, while going for the long-term investment, the chief financial officers or financial analysts take into account as a CSR, as a that can play as a instrumental role, yes, or it can be go for the benevolent role. But in our case, it's more towards the instrumental role.
Thank you, Ahmed. Any other questions? Oğuz Hocam, you look as if you have a question, please.
Yeah, I have. I mean, I am more, by your definition, traditional perspective on this stuff, more value maximizer perspective. My perspective is that. But given that, my question is this: I mean, this corporate social responsibility, the definition, or so there may be some components, some acts of corporations that may seem due to social responsibility, but in actuality, they're again value maximizing behavior. Do you see what I mean? So there may be some acts, actions by managers that seem like a corporate social responsibility move, but actually it is a value maximizing move in that sense. So how do you separate, for example, I mean, you want to have a good relationship between your, I mean, when you think of stakeholders, your employees, or I don't know, your suppliers or your customers. So again, I am very much ignorant on how you how this literature works. But my question is there a way to separate true altruistic, quote unquote, altruistic social responsibility actions versus the actions that may seem like a social responsible move, maybe kind of a marketing move, but in actuality, it is a value maximizing action by the management. Thank you.
I'm interrupting, but Oğuz Hocam, you know, there is no true altruism. So actually, all of these serve some purpose eventually. But yes, Ahmed, it is yours.
No, altruism in the sense that, like, socially,
yeah, there's no true altruism.
Not just, I mean, there is scale, right? I mean, maybe, yeah. Again, thank you.
Thank you, John. So you're very well true in your judgment, and you're right. That's why we explored the both motives. Either it's for the profit maximization motives, or it's more related towards the contribution towards society. That was the point which we started this work. And regarding CSR, so most of the trend is going towards, most of the response is going towards the value maximization side, economic rationality. Yes, we prove this, and both claims are supported by the literature. Now, most of the literature is moving towards the benevolent approach, benevolent motives, because they are emphasizing that the the best, because in marketing or HR literature, they are more emphasizing on the contribution towards society. Once we talk about the finance domain, they are more towards the value maximization.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Any other questions? If no, I have one question for Dr. Hunjra,
Yes.
if
Yes,
you allow
please.
me. My
Please.
question was that actually it's kind of related to both questions. So, you know, CSR is related to stakeholder interests, but now environmental, social, and governance investing is kind of an implication of CSR to financial terms. So what I see in the literature is that if companies are focusing on environmental pillar or social pillar, it has negative impacts on financial performance. But on the other hand, I witnessed that companies who are focusing on governance pillar more than the environment and social pillar, I mean, if you're in the stakeholder side, if you're considering internal motives more than societal perspectives, this is positively reflected on financial performance. So I don't see your CSR measure scales there, but what are you focusing on more on your research so that you found a positive relationship there?
Yes, you're very right, Delvin. There are several dimensions of CSR. We are having almost 5 dimensions, but we took 2 dimensions. First dimension is risk and market opportunity, which was measured by 4 questions. And the second dimension was related to CSR and financial growth, how CSR is related to financial growth. And there are other some dimensions. So based on our questions, which we have asked to the financial managers, because we want to keep the balance in content validity or in face validity, we have discussed with the experts of these areas, and while keeping in mind our outcome, our main variable, that is capital budgeting. While making the long-term investment decisions, how the finance manager, either they keep in mind the CSR and stakeholder interest while they're making long-term investment. So that's we took only 2 dimensions. One is risk and market opportunities related to CSR. The second one is related to financial growth of the firms. So based on these questions, we have, there are 12 questions in the second dimension. So based on those questions, we found that it's more towards the value maximization instead of contributing towards society. So because the outcome variable, our other variable is long-term investment. In long term, that is CSR becomes more towards the value creation instead of in short term it's cost, but in the long term it works as a profit driven.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions available? No, I think so. Thank you so much for this interesting paper presentation. So Ahmed is not only a good friend, but also a very prolific writer. So if you have any coming special issues or you're editing some books, if you have any call for papers, please share it with us. So there are PhD students and also colleagues from the department. We would be very glad. Or you can email me later on and I will pass it to the department.
Sure, Delvin. I am editing 4 books, 2 with Emerald, 1 with World Scientific, and 1 is with Springer. So they are related to sustainable finance, and 1 book is related to CSR, stakeholder interest and sustainable development. The second is green finance and sustainable development. Third is fintech and sustainable development. So the other one is related to how I can say sustainable development and tourism economics. So I will share with you the call, and still we are accepting the papers, the chapters. So if any
you
of your
could send me
colleagues
the call for papers back again, I will distribute to department members and the PhD students who are interested. So
yes,
thank you so much for your time and effort. It's nice to see you and have you here, even if it's online.
It's a pleasure, and happy to contact with your colleagues. Hope sometime we'll be finding opportunity to meet in person.
Yeah, that's hopefully.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Conclude.
Thank you, Ahmed. Bye-bye. It was very nice to host you here, and I hope to see you again.
Yeah, inshallah, we'll meet again. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.